World Healers Group, coming to you through the auspices of People for People Network. And we're particularly joyful about the inclusion of the Rumble Network now, which is also including our audio program. And we're on every Sunday from 11 p.m. a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you can look for us with new messages every day of hope and enlightenment. And generally, what we're focused on in recent times is the ascension process of understanding how things work, understanding that every day of our reality out here, our set point in the ascension program is drawing to us new experiences and new realities. And every chakra has 12 levels of experiential frequencies that we can experience as we ascend in consciousness. And I'd like to point out that it is an individual effort to do this, to raise your set point, which I'll give you a meditation later on how to do this. But because through resonance, we're tuned into and capacitated by the world consciousness. And that's why we're called the world healers. For years, we got together and meditated and focused our energy, our unified field of desire, will, and intent to raise people's awareness of who they are and what they are and what you're here for. And it is in the ultimate an individualized thing that no one can do for you. No religion, no amount of education or position, because each person is experiencing and drawing back in that experience into their internal reality, which creates their next moment of time. And as we rise up to the chakra levels, we will encounter various opposition forces that are built in to the nature of the divine consciousness. But anyway, right now I'd like for you to open your awareness and step back, and I'll lead you into a world meditation, which is a follow-up to the one we did last week. But I have a lot more information now about how to control it internally. And so get in your regular meditation pose, whatever that is, hands and feet separated. Take your point of awareness up to your forehead. That's the desktop of your bio-neural computer. Now just relax back into your head. And there are various locations in your head that are centers of consciousness. So as you step back, if you encounter resistance, a dark void, that you have to take your attention around the continuous ascension. That is a pattern and program put in there by the dominating religions and the social network wherever your history has brought you through. And so the first thing we have to do is clear that block to ascension, which puts you into your personal power and allows you to control your reality. All right, bring that dark, well, what can I call it? It's just a field of energy that blocks our ascension, our understanding of who we are and what we are. So just wrap your awareness around that block and go to the source, whether it be religion or education or financial, whatever is blocking you now from rising into consciousness. wrap your awareness around it and push it out, because it's just a thought form. It's just an acceptance of the powers that be, and that acceptance makes us susceptible to whatever they want to do to control us. So push out now that dark feeling right behind your consciousness field. Push it out, clear it out. Because you're working with desire and will to access the higher divine levels of consciousness. Now, as you push the levels of consciousness out, bring your attention to your own inner system. Now take you to the heart, the 0 point in your heart. And behind you, your heart, you can feel a wall pushing at you. That's the past. The past moving into the moment of now in the 0 point and reacting to desire and will to express your future and to create your not only your reality, but the reality of everyone in the world. Now, with your awareness of that dark force that's pushing at us, it's simply the domination forces of the cabal that has ruled our reality for centuries. Push it out, block it off, tell it has no place in your life. And you'll feel that heaviness move away from your heart. And we're going to replace that heaviness now with light. Light from source, the creative polarity of consciousness. So to step back again to a deeper level, asking for the quantum field. That's a state of expanded consciousness which communicates through feeling and not through linear thought. It includes linear thought in the desired will and intent of your deep inner higher consciousness. And that's what we want to do now, is focus on our power and our capacity to create our reality rather than to be subjective to it. So reach back now to your center of spiritual consciousness. This is your psychic center. And reach up with your awareness through the crown chakra. Reach up to the light of Oversoul, God Source consciousness that holds us in form. And this God Force consciousness creates everything in reality. And the Devic consciousness holds us in form through the aspects of the thinkers creating the reality. And the thinkers and the feelers who actually create the reality. And this is in pertinence and awareness to all the laws of physics. And as we understand physics and the laws that rule each level of awareness, all the way through the ascension process, we come into self-awareness and the fact that we are composed of polarity opposites. Positive being the high God force above the heart center, and the negative awareness of the domination forces that rule the low self. And our desire is to move in the ascension process and to take control of that. And through our experiences, we focus our awareness deeper and deeper. and realize that we are source or spirit, the God self, self-realized in this world we experience, self-realized for the experience. And as we learn through each level of experience by reaching out and experience and then drawing those lessons back in, we increase our frequency rate and raise to a higher level of understanding and potential power by claiming our godhood, our personal power, and asserting it into the consciousness of humanity. Because humanity, by and large, is held in the lower dimensions, the first three dimensions of length, width, and height. And we're moving into through the fourth dimension of learning how everything works, three dimensions. And it works by clearing from your system the old patterns and forms of reality in your past. And I'm talking about all the way into past lives. The past forms of reality that hold the form of your immediate set point. And by releasing the set point and the negative experiences we've had in the past that create fear and the need of stabilization. So drop down now, take your point of awareness down below the heart into the domination field and feel that the press of consciousness that comes in from the universal human experience. We're all experiencing domination and going through the turmoil of raising our consciousness above the heart. And those of us who are above the heart in our set point, we attract these positive experiences in our lives that only accelerate our growth and ascension consciousness. There's also another distinction that needs to be realized, is that the polarities that affect whether we're male or female. And if you draw a line down through your body from the top of your head out between your feet into earth mind, that's the distinction between right and left. The right side being where the flows of light can come down in and be utilized for our experience, and as opposed to the dark side polarity that holds the form of past experiences. So feel that now. Feel the division between left and right, and you can feel this difference by turning your eyes to the right or listening. I call it listening. It's just taking your awareness into the light. Do that now. Now you'll feel yourself immediately lighten up because we're working in the flow of consciousness of life itself and all the polarities that hold us in form. Now reach up into the light. Pull the light down around through you. Pull it down into your left side and neutralize or clear the heaviness that's in your left side, the domination side, the female side. It doesn't have anything to do with male or female. It has to do with polarity of consciousness. And even thought forms have polarity. To push out the darkness now with the light. And we feel through our unified field an expansion of consciousness as the light comes in and creates a positive reality in your set point. Now notice your set point. This will be, in most people, it's a region just below the heart center. where we are experiencing the fourth dimension. Lift the set point up above the heart center. And in doing so, you'll raise your frequency and the attraction of new beings, new teachers, and new higher awareness of how polarity works and what your particular situation is. So in lifting yourself up, let go of the denser realities in your low self and in your left side, and just flush them out down through the chakra system, flush them back down into the lower densities where they originate, and then create a block to those densities. And every time you sense or feel that you're being overwhelmed by the situation in the world or your experience in it, do this simple exercise of pushing down the darkness, pushing it out, and bringing in the light, and you'll immediately feel a shift in your awareness. That shift is in your set point that determines your life and your reality and where you are in the ascension process. So bring in the light now. Push out the density down or to the left and replace it with light, higher consciousness, higher chakra levels. And with this light comes information that we can internalize in our experiences through our free choice. That's why we're given free choices, is to choose the light or the dark. And anytime you choose the light, you ascend in consciousness and higher levels of experience. Anytime you choose the domination side, or subjective, or angry, or controlling, or domination in any form in yourself and others, you are blocking the light. So anytime when you're monitoring your set point and your median level of consciousness, be aware of this heaviness and push it out around the perimeters of your orb. Push it down below your feet, back into earth mind. Now let the light flow down evenly on both sides. So as you create and are a co-creator with the God Force, you are listening to your higher levels of guidance that benefits not only you, but everyone around you, extending out from the family to your circle of friends and to your community and to your nation. So let that light flow down through you now, pushing out the darkness and setting your awareness on, in this incredible time of transition, setting your awareness on what you desire to experience in the 12 levels of your own fourth dimensional chakras, and release those experiences of the past and incorporate your new desire and will, your personal power, into attracting and creating what you want to, and need to experience. That's the reason for dreaming, and that's the reason for exploring our past lives and our experiences in this lifetime, is so we can lock onto frequencies of energy that are stored in earth mind or in source consciousness. And as you lock onto those frequencies, you can clear the negatives and replace them with positive potential. So reach up into the light now and extend it down through all your chakra system, out base of your spine and down into earth and earth mind. Earth mind stores all of our experiences as frequency of energy in the crystalline consciousness of earth mind, the negative polarity. But here it's a neutral polarity. It just reads your consciousness and how high you ascended and what you need to attract for negative experiences, where you can make a right choice and clearly create, attract, draw in, manifest your new reality. And that's the simple ascension process. That's how it works, is by clearing out the negative, always replace the negative experience with a positive experience. In other words, you're healing your chakra system. This is self-healing. Is by clearing the influences that create the illness and disharmony in your life and past lifetimes, and particularly your family flows. Because every time you clear a pattern and replace it with a positive opposite, you are raising your frequency. And that's what it's all about. Now, reaching up through crown chakra, pulling down the light, go up as high as you can go now. You'll find many of the barriers and restrictions are cleared. If you encounter a barrier, then know that it's a strong influence or an experience of the past. And with your power of desire and will, you neutralize that experience and push it out of your system. Your system your innate body is very cooperative with the high self. It wants to feel good and feel positive experiences. And so it's listening to every move you make in your awareness system and responds to it. So here's a good point to teach you, to add to your self-healing experiences. Feel yourself for any remnants now in the language of the quantum field. Feel anything that's negative in your physical awareness and push it out. Neutralize it with light, realizing that the light is who we are. We are God source. And feel the lightning in your system as you do this. When you can feel joy in your heart, you know you're doing it right. Pull down joy, express it outward, clearing the negative aspects of your reality and of your life and past lives, and reaching up with desired will to source, and feeling the light move down. It's all about feeling, and that light stimulates patterns and forms in each chakra of the experience that you need to have to rise to even higher light. Remember, there are 12 levels in each chakra system, starting with the highest experience you've had will already be resonating into the next chakra and attracting it. Now we're going to reach out into the group mind consciousness. Reach out and feel, but don't allow the group mind consciousness of every other human to affect you, because they're going through a great release of negative forces, and they have to learn how to positively work to create new experiences. But their desired will is all powerful in this, because who would choose to be negative in domination if they could exist in the light and abundance and creativity and manifesting of co-creating with God? So expand that light and the self-awareness that you are God's source, experiencing everything possible in your ascension through the chakra system. Push your light out now through the orb, clearing any negative patterns and forms that exist in your habitual reality. And realize that you may go to a whole new experience as you move higher. If you've mastered each level as you go up through it, that's self-mastery. And I've said it a million times, you have to master yourself before you can be a master to others. So assimilate into yourself now your self-mastery and desire your orb to be clear and free of negative influences. Push it out, and form a strong barrier with desire and will, a strong barrier on the exterior of your orb that like a mirror that reflects and negative energies or influences back to the source and neutralizes them. Do that now. Feel the light around you, and feel the reflective mirror that you can create with your orb. Now, Teresa, I'm going to ask you to step up and take this into a world healing.
I'm sorry it took so long. My buttons were not responding. So thank you for bringing us to this area. You left off with desiring your orb to be clear and free, and from the inside, from your heart space outward, you can continue to expand the orb from your heart outward. Even with every heartbeat, imagine it pulsing outward. And as it pulses outward, it neutralizes past low frequency memories. So, for example, if you're holding any tension in your body anywhere, just imagine, and as creative as you wish, the creativity part of you is part of your superpower. And there are no wrong answers on this level. So just focus on the tension. Perhaps you could wiggle around and find some aches and pains. And imagine capturing those and spin them in a counterclockwise motion. And in your mind's eye, say that this is now neutralizing that frequency. And go deep into the tissues of your body. Go deep into the history of any past lives, any past relations, any past events, and see them becoming neutralized and turning to a dust, and release them and push them out. And as they exit your orb, above you, you can imagine a toroidal field, which is a vortex that's pulling in. It's like a globe, a south pole and a north pole. And at its very center, it transmutes from a neutral energy or a negative energy, and it transmutes into an energy as it exits through the top into beneficial healing energy. And we see that energy wrapping around the earth, around the golden grid of the earth, for Terra, our Earth Mother, to take that energy as she needs it to restore any work that or healing that she requires. And you can continue to go back into your heart center and seek out any discord, whether it is from your own essence or from the collective anywhere in the world. So perhaps you might imagine witnessing some unfairness that has happened in the world, or discord even in politics that you might have seen, or maybe someone is hungry at the hands of an unfair choice. Just go and capture that frequency. Imagine that you have a sacred sponge that can absorb that. And then remember to spin it in a counterclockwise motion and see it becoming neutral. So it may have had a color before, and now it is just a neutral color. It may have been quite dark before, but now it's like a neutral gray. And again, send that frequency in any shape or form. It can be liquid, it can be gaseous, anything that your creative mind can create, and send it again into the south pole of the toroidal field. And you see it going up, and at its center it transmutes and becomes beneficial healing energy, again distributing around this planet and extending into the universe. And you can continue to hunt out any areas that are areas of discord. And we also call those triggers. So perhaps, like the other day, I was driving down a road that I was familiar with, and I was enjoying the fall colors of all the trees. But yet, because it was a road I traveled down some years ago, many years ago, the frequency of discord that I experienced at that time stuck in the road. It wasn't stuck in the vehicle I was in because it's a different vehicle. So I was triggered, and I found myself becoming angry for no what appeared to be any reason. But it was a memory of uh, anger, of discord. And so at this time, I invite all of you to think of a trigger that you are triggered by for what seems to be no reason, and do the same. Just visualize you're hovering above that area and create a vortex counterclockwise and command it to neutralize and become a neutral, and then send that neutral energy into a vortex into the bottom of the toroidal field and transmute it into beneficial healing energy. And now all of the area that you have cleared, it is now a neutral, open space. So it is, you've taken away that magnetic field, let's say, that would attract something else in its place. So that area is, it needs to be fulfilled, that vacuum, let's say. So now we fill it, we reach up to source and invite the light of source into that space, and with the good intentions of joy and harmony in its place. And that whole area is now cleared forever because you've now created that frequency. And we put in the blessing that this energy is of the highest good of all creation, the best and highest good of all creation. And it will never be changed unless you change it. So continue traveling in your own, on your own journey, seeking out those triggers that don't seem to have an explanation, but you can feel them. That sense of feeling is there. Feel the anger, feel the frustration, feel the unfairness, feel the fear, feel any and all of those negative influences, and allow them to be so that you can attend to them. And so again, we'll travel down that road, whatever road that is that you choose. It can be the most magnificent road, and you'll pass by another area, perhaps an area where you witnessed an event that was traumatic. And gather all of that energy up. So, for example, when I was a child, I witnessed a car hitting a dog and killing the dog. And it was so traumatic, it was really quite paralyzing. And after 40 years, I drove down that road and that energy was still there. I relived, I could I actually relived the feeling of that, being that child and being in that state of shock. And it affected me many days afterwards, and literally years now that I witnessed that same spot after 40 years. And so now I create an orb over that space and expand that space to that my world at that time, which included my school when I was a child. It included my home. It included the bridge and the river the train tracks, every area about it, every object about it absorbed that shock because I pulsed that out. And all of the children that were there with me witnessing it, I invite their souls in for this cleansing. So imagine that orb is like a sponge and it absorbs all of that frequency and that expands to literally miles around. And now spin that again in a counterclockwise field. Whatever event comes to your mind, that is your event. And if the one that I've described is dominant, you can blend them together so that those overlapping fields become even more powerful. There is no army of one, but rather we are heart linked and we help each other. So we see that neutralizing and spinning and cleansing and clearing from every aspect of your world in the past and the present. And it's neutralizing, becoming a neutral essence. And then again, we send it up into the toroidal field. And at its center of the toroidal field, it transmutes and turns into beneficial healing energy. And we send that out around the earth and into the cosmos, cleansing and clearing and raising the frequency of oneself, the area, the past, the present, and the future. And it cleanses and clears the universe. So the set point, your own set point is raised, and all of those that you have cleared from, you've blessed them as well. There's already the agreement as you do it in love to cleanse and clear the shock and trauma, because it's a gift that you can share. It's like the air. We don't need permission to breathe our own, and we don't need permission to share the air with anyone else, although some might think otherwise. They can continue to think that. It's not our world. That frequency is not our world. So aches and pains are also like that. So let's choose for ourselves a discomfort, an ache, or a pain that you might have experienced or are now experiencing. And we'll focus on that ache and pain. So I will choose one for myself. You choose one for yourself, or you may wish to choose for someone else who you love. You simply heart link with them. And we can bring the memory or the shock or the trauma that caused whatever causes that ache or pain at the moment. And we put it into a vortex. Perhaps this vortex is a fire. Let's say we see a fire with rocks around it like a campfire. And we bring that frequency in an orb and put it into the fire. And we can see the fire spinning like a vortex, like a little tornado, counterclockwise. And we can see it burning up and becoming neutralized. And we send that up into the toroidal field and see it transmuting right at the heart center and being sent out into the cosmos and being sent transmuted in love and healing energy. And we see it expanding even more again around the earth, around the universe, throughout the entire cosmos. See the love spreading, cleansing, and clearing. And we bring in the light of Source to any areas that have created any kind of vacuum that we might have missed. And it's filled with joy and harmony and the warmth of love and peace and gratitude. So we can do that with any kind of imbalances in our essence, including fear. And fear is something that we're the ones that create. And there's clearly physical fear of, that we might feel when we're threatened. Let's just gather all of the fears that we might have experienced throughout all of our lifetimes. Imagine a giant magnet going back in time to your first spark, and it's capturing all of the fears, imagined or real, in this magnet, and we bring it into the now. And we're going to spin that magnet and release the fears into the flames of that fire in a counterclockwise manner. And we see all of those fears that are just simply frequencies, and they're burning up and becoming neutral and transmuting in the toroidal field we send it into, and it's transmuted into beneficial, healing, loving energy and sent out into the world. And when we say transmute, it is as simple as imagine a child comes to you and they bang their thumb, their finger, and they're crying and they run to you, and it's extremely painful for them. And you take their hand and you kiss their hand, and then they just suddenly begin laughing and running off. And what you've done as the alchemist, you have transmuted pain into love. It's that rapid and that real. And rather than any of us shaking our fists at things we find that are out of balance, we just simply send them cinnamon hearts or blow kisses at it to transmute it. And trust that it's real because it is real. It is pure joy. So, Frank, I hope that I've covered one or two aspects of where you brought us to. And if anyone would like to bring ideas to the fore to assist, I would be over the moon.
Let's take a moment for a break here, Teresa. You did a beautiful job. And during the break, contemplate for yourself, and I'm talking to every member of the listening audience and the world audience, contemplate what you want to create in your reality and what experiences you want to attract. And think back on when you do your own meditations, think back on what you want to clear and release in the manner that we were shown this morning, and to make sure that information is internalized in your systems, and so you'll never forget it. Reach up now to the frontal lobes of your brain and feel the pressure there. That pressure is the mental realization through the linear field of consciousness of what I and Teresa have been impressing upon you. Wrap your awareness around that energy that's in your short-term memory. Pull it down to the base of your brain and release it into the innate body, the subconscious. And when you accomplish that, pull back to center and reach up and pull down the light and the method you were shown in how to attract the light and your personal power, what you can do with it. Because the light is always there waiting to work with you. We'll take a break now and come back in 5 minutes or 7 minutes, and we'll continue this discussion. welcome back, everyone. And thank you, Teresa, for that continuation of what I was trying to communicate in that first hour. And so let's discuss a little more. So you, in the listening audience, and particularly those in the Rumble group who haven't been familiar with our work in the past, you can go to the People for People network and through the auspices of that network, find all of the past shows where and each show has a specific message of self-realization in it, and that pardon me, self-realization is what is expressed when persons like Catherine or Teresa or Angel express themselves. That it's you can just feel in their voices where they are in their reality. Pardon me, I have a message I want to communicate to you, and I'll explain this difficulty I have. I actually, since 2.5 years ago, when I went out of body and died and was resuscitated, I wandered around for 5 days in a disincarnate state, studying other levels of manifestation and all the way up to source. And I have a good realization of how universal consciousness works. And all I have to do is put my point of awareness on something and open up the channels, the oversoul, and listen, and it's communicated to me the information I need, or new information comes through constantly. Explanation of how things work in the physical reality. And when I came back into body and with the understanding that I was given a second life of reality where I could function as an avatar to teach and heal and spread the consciousness of the ascension principles. And of course, the first thing I did is, I was 85 years old then. I wanted to extend my life to the point where I could utilize the med technology to extend my life and continue this work. And so one of the first things I studied was, why can't healers heal themselves? Why didn't I not see the conditions that were developing in my heart that caused my heart attack? And why couldn't I heal myself? The answer is very simple. We are indwellers in a physical reality. This physical reality is created and dominated by our genes, by our past. And when I looked at that, I realized that my past reincarnations, back as far as when my particular DNA was created, and I'm talking about the mitochondria DNA, because the physical DNA changes with every incarnation to widen our experience. But the mitochondria, the female part of our system, extends all the way back to source when we were created. And you can ride that wave back into the past and study yourself and your development and gain information there that's important to us now. But anyway, when I came back into the body, it was a self-realization that my family, my genetic Frank family, had the program instilled in their biology. It was a creation. Fast forward, that 85 years was as long as they beneficially could live, and that was a shock to me because I thought I was totally in control of my reality. Then I had to realize that I did realize that my physical self is a separate entity, and it had been ruled by the low self until I shifted the consciousness into the higher ascension levels. Now, with that realization, I looked at the breakdown of my physical body, and over the last 10 years, and understand that that is the aging process, is to take us out, and so we can come back in another body as our high souls. And Francis, my high soul, is the one speaking to you now. And when Francis comes in, he doesn't feel any of these age-old problems that I accumulated, but I have been under attack by the opposition forces. I'm speaking particularly of COVID, because I did contact COVID within 10 days of taking the first injection. My daughter insisted on it, and this extended COVID is what limits my speaking capacity now. But with desire and will and the steady connection to Oversoul, this indweller Francis will continue to communicate as long as he can beneficially lead you forward into higher levels of consciousness and understanding. But I daily face this prospect, the need to have to refresh my body, the physical body, and extend its tenure, so to speak. I'd much prefer to pass on out and come back in another body, but I'd have to go through the process of birth and reincarnation then. And I don't want to lose the gift that I have, that I came back with from out of body, this gift of universal understanding of how things work and how I can communicate that to you, and the understanding that each one of us is similar in our potentials. So I'd like to introduce you now to a person who also went out of body and did choose to come back so she could raise her young child. And this is Catherine. Catherine, will you give us an understanding of how when you came back in your body, you didn't want to come back, and so a parallel soul in your soul stream agreed to come back in as a walk-in and take care of your child, and because your husband had been killed in the accident, and you were in a coma for a month or more. But when you came back in, the new body had replaced the new soul, had replaced the old soul, and so you had to go through learning how to be human. So could you share that experience with us and give us an insight into what it's like to come in as a new spirit and have to learn everything to be human? Go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you, Frank. I am chuckling at myself because I don't think of it quite that way. And I realize, as you said, what it's like to be human. I'm realizing what you're saying, that is a human attribute of liking to have call it a list, and I'm going to use the term box to put things in so that you can relate to it in your own set of knowledge of like past experiences and so forth. Yes, I was in an accident, and my husband and I were together on another plane of existence, communicating with each other. And how I would explain it was, if you've seen the movie Contact, I remember the first time I saw that, and when she was talking with her father, they were like on a beach, but you know how the sky was? I sat up in my chair and I go, how did they get into my mind? Because that's what it was similar to me of where my husband and I were, though we were on a mountainside with fir trees and just beautiful, where she was on a beach. But the sky was the same. So it was very intriguing to me. Coming back here to learn what life was like, how to be human, let me rephrase that. How to act and react in these human earth suits is where I'll put it. I realized that things were so important to this human body, but they were not important to my soul per se, or who I was, who I am. And I remember going to Frank and Jane for healing just to see what it was like, because, well, I had challenges walking and so forth. And he would constantly try to put me back into my body, you know, my soul back into my body. And it would last for a minute amount of time, and then I'd pop right back out again, which to me was normal, but I know it confounded him. He couldn't figure out why that was. But I learned from this whole experience of how important it was to integrate, call it the soul and the body together to work as one, and how I like to explain it. It's sort of like the yin and yang symbol, or how you can grip your hands together, where your fingers together and your fists are one together, and that's sort of how the soul and the body come together to work. I realized that my goal was to incorporate all of my particles that were spread all over, to bring them all together as one in this body. And why that's important, I'm sure somebody could come up with an answer and so forth, but I just knew that that was the goal that I have and still am doing, is gathering all of the pieces of who and what I am. What else have I learned here? That we need to care for our earth suits, our bodies, our human bodies, as well as you would take care of something that you dearly love. You know, call it a car or your sports equipment, or, you know, anything. You need to take care of it, and that the powers that be don't want you taking care of your body, so they really do things to mess you up, you know, like getting you addicted to different foods, different smells, different, you know, drugs and all of that. There are complete fixes to everything here, but they just like to put band-aids on it because they want to keep everybody fractured. They don't want us to gather all that we are together, because we are incredible, powerful beings. We're just phenomenal. If you think within yourself of how you can go from crying your eyes out. Well, I'll take an example of a young child, a young child. They'll be crying like crazy 1 minute, and then somebody will come in, like Teresa said, and kiss their owie or give them love and attention, and boom, they're happy, smiling and laughing. In a split of an eye, they can do that, which means that you yourself can do that. We've just been trained out of that whole situation of realizing that we have the capability of going from one emotion to the next emotion in the blink of an eye, and how incredible that really, really is. I mean, it's phenomenal, that energy that these human bodies are able to do with the help of the soul. It's miraculous to be here on this planet Earth at this point in time when change is occurring, and we have the capability of doing it, of being here now and helping each and every human on this planet to make proper choice and step forward in the most proper, miraculous manner that they can. Now, your way of doing something is far different than the way I do things, but the end result is basically the same thing if we're on the proper path for the highest good of all that there is. Frank has a different way of explaining things than I have of explaining things, but the words put aside, the energy comes up in the same fashion and manner. And we care. We want everybody to do well because we are all one on this planet Earth. To explain on how that really works is like trying to explain trigonometry to somebody who doesn't even know how to add numbers quite yet. So, it's still beyond me to be able to put into a language of how that really works. I am in awe of Frank on how he speaks and explains things, because he has the capability of putting into words what I already know. And it just fascinates me to no end. Is there more that you want me to go into, Frank? Because I don't know.
Well, yes, there is so much more that I can't begin to encompass it in this broadcast at this time. We are incredible indwellers, and our souls, each soul, pardon me.
Can I interrupt with a beginner's version of what's going on?
Please do.
Okay. Very often what I've learned with the guided meditations and the lessons is that I am in charge of my own soul, my own body, and that these lessons and meditations help me to learn about me inside, how I connect with everybody, and how I can remove programming that we've had from birth and even genetically, many lifetimes or ancestors ago. It all comes up to us anyway, and we can remove the programming, such as that funny place in the road or a shopping center or something. That information, we can remove the emotional trauma of that, which allows us to have more and more power within ourselves. just like Catherine had spoken about putting those bad feelings or negative feelings in a campfire and transmute that energy. Well, in a campfire, I can visualize the smoke coming up, and that's where it's being transmuted and just sent out to the rest of the cosmos. So that's how I would think of it as the newest of this group. Everyone else is mastering. Me, I'm learning still. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. And I'd like to add to that, since I've got my throat clear again. Each of us, each soul, indwelling soul, has a unique observational field of study that they need to add to their past lives, past soul lives, and incarnations in other places and other bodies. We may pull up information from the past, but the human psyche is steady evolving to where they have the capacity to listen and understand and download information from different perspectives. That's why this program is so important, is you get to hear the different perspective as each of us, we healers, have observed our evolutionary process and to gain understanding about how things work. And so don't listen to my words as greatly as you listen and feel the intent of what we're trying to achieve. And that's been expressed in the past in powerful healers like Jesus and the other religious spiritual beings that came on. Their message was as pure and as steady as their comprehension and their audience was prepared to receive. And so we are much more evolved now. We don't need religions to go to God or to find spirituality. It's already inherently within us. We just need to clear the deadly blocking forces of domination and free up our own insights and intuition and pursue that through meditation and clearing work and gaining understanding from others, like listening to Catherine. The different perspective allows you to see all sides of any situation and arrive at your own conclusions as to what healing methods or technology is required, because this is a technical thing we're doing. It pertains to and utilizes all the laws of physics, because the God force is a physical experientiality through each and every one of us, and that power is available to us, and we can do much more work in the afterlife, and that's what I intend to do very soon in sending inspiration and knowledge to those who follow me in this pursuit of understanding what ascension is and how we each are put here in a school of self-realization to experience everything possible, because it's the God force experiencing through you and that's why every perspective is different. And so that the God force can experience everything possible through us and ascend and lead us in the ascension process, where ultimately we will join God as the co-creators. All right.
Here's a question for you, Frank. Here's a question. You often mention that since you had the near-death experience, that you're able to slip into a higher dimensions and gather information. I know that the question the how part is that it becomes indescribable once you're able to do it. And I'm wondering, how do you slip into that? Like, how do you Is there a stairway you take, or, I'm being facetious, but I mean, all I can do is relate to my humanness and, my visualizations of being human and how I walk through those aspects like I did with the clearing. It's all very visual for me. So how do you get into the higher dimensions when you go?
Frank, before you answer, can I jump in here for a moment?
Oh, yes.
Okay. The reason why, Teresa, I'm jumping in is Frank used to ask me that same question, but not in those specific words.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never be able to tell him. I go, I don't know. I just do. It just happens.
Mm.
And I'm sitting here as you were asking that question to Frank, going, okay, so what do I do? How do I get there? And I realized that the biggest struggle most everybody has is they get in their own way. And you
Okay,
just
just a minute. Get in your own way as in an obstruction, or you get it in your own path, your own way?
both.
Which
It's a two-way street there. That's exactly what it is. And you get in your own way, meaning like, okay, it has to be harder than this really is.
Mhm.
Or,
Okay.
I have to clean this out, clear that out, do this, do that. Yes, you do. But once things are cleaned out and so forth,
Mhm.
you just slide right in there. But because of how the human brain works, you think you have to jump through more hoops before you get to the candy or to the sweet or whatever you want. Does that make sense? Anyway, so go ahead,
Sure.
Frank. Thank you for letting me jump in.
Oh, that's fine. That was good information. The fact is that we're all in this process of self-realization, and in our past, pertaining to the root chakra and our survival primitive consciousness of the human animal, we had to learn to survive, and with survival, we expanded out into higher levels of consciousness, higher chakra system, as we internalized information and learned. And you're right, everybody's perspective is different because we're all viewing a different part of the reality that we commonly create and assist in creating. That's through our soul levels and our high soul. The high soul actually created this earth in cooperation with the God source, because the God source desired to experience all things possible on earth. And so we started out with the most primitive organisms and let that evolve to higher and higher levels of consciousness and higher capabilities as we moved up through the chakra system. But it's still down in the low animal range. And then when we gained information enough to gain realization of how things work, and that's what we're doing in the fourth dimension here. With realization comes self-realization of the expanded consciousness of high self. And when we move into the high self, each chakra has gifts and abilities that are programmed into it by our creators. And as you clear and release the reliance on the past, and create in the 0 point a new awareness by letting go of the old awareness, it raises, we can rapidly move up through the levels of understanding. And because the soul, when it leaves the physical body, it only indwells through the high self and the male polarity. When the soul leaves the body, it remembers all of the past lives that you experienced. So we are really incredible beings in that we have access when we open up to full realization. we can go into the past and correct things in the past that had moved forward in the growth process of change. This is why I say there's no such thing as time. There's only change as we evolve, and we are evolving our genetic memory, the aspects of consciousness that we identified with in the past. But with self-realization, we can go in and correct and focus and accelerate our growth of consciousness. That's what I did as a cowboy on the ranch. I had plenty of time to realize how things worked. And I know now that I had open consciousness then, because I came in with the soul to experience that. And the open consciousness only related to the lateral plane of consciousness. I wasn't really clear enough to focus on or open up the higher levels of consciousness through the experience of in the heart chakra, the higher, and until I had suddenly realized that I had healing ability by saving a man's life. And that changed my life. It changed my focus, my realization from survival to seriously pursuing understanding of the healing ability and how it works. And that's been a procession right up through 35 or 40 years of experience and growth of understanding. And to answer your question of how do I focus on the information, what opens me up so I can hear it, it happens with need. Whatever we need to understand, if we put our, pardon me, they're fighting me. If we put our point of awareness on our need to understand, and then step back in the quantum field, that's out of the conscious linear reasoning frame of consciousness, we step back into the quantum field with vertical connection and allowance. So whatever level that consciousness needs, you simply put your attention on that, and it appears. Sometimes I get lectures in my head as long as 2 or 3 hours, and I absorb as much as I can and internalize it all the time. And that information is always available. This is my high self speaking to my physical frank self, and so we can translate it in the linear, the vertical consciousness into linear consciousness, which Frank can understand and relate with. Because right now I'm channeling information that I already know, and I don't question the source. It's never been wrong. It's never led me in any error in any way, and that is the truth is inevitable. Truth will always evolve through the lessons of domination and the dominators. We evolve through learning what not to do to be in the ascension consciousness. And this has been charted back through the ages as realization by our spiritual beings, but they never had access to the understanding the levels of consciousness the way I do, and how this physical field, the plasmic field, permeates everything in the universe. It's just one energy source, and that energy is the mind of God, desiring and willing everything into form, down to the various levels of self-realization into manifestation and into form. And so, Teresa, to answer your question, you just put your mind on it and listen, and let it stay back out of the conscious mind, the linear mind, and let that translation run in your head, and download the information so that you can repeat it as we do in these radio conferences. But I'm looking forward now. I also gained the ability to look into the future. I'm looking at this turmoil that the world is going through right now, where it's a turmoil of a battle of free will of the dominators who use domination, wrong choice, to satisfy their needs in the primitive level, and the opposition force, dominion, those of us who have knowledge and understanding and of spirituality and how it works. And so this is a great opening, an opportunity to eliminate the domination forces that have been in the past that created the levels of experientiality that we all go through to begin with, social programming, who we are and what we are, and our origins and our histories and our DNA memories and all, that come through to us. With this experientiality and incorporation of remembering the past and clearing what doesn't work for us and replacing it with what does work for us in the ascension process, we rapidly gain knowledge and information and can pull any information you want. You'd have to talk to a physicist who has gone through this experience that I've had in order to put all of the lessons into a physical form that a chemist or a scientist can understand. But I can relate to you that this information is available to all of us as we clear and release, and we don't need any preset forms of science or education or religion to speed our evolutionary process. I'm being attacked again, so I'll turn it back to the group.
Frank, one of the things. Go ahead, Teresa.
No, I'm happy to wait.
Okay, that's one of the things that we're learning here is to these group meditations or a meditation on our own is to quiet our minds. And as we've been talking, I've been thinking of all of the times where I'm doing something mundane, vacuuming or cleaning the bathroom or something. And there are thoughts that appear in my head and I throw them out immediately because I'm busy doing the mundane stuff. But that's the higher self talking to us. So we need to learn how to acknowledge, even without meditating or anything else, the higher self still talks to us.
That's exactly true, Vanessa, because information is patterned into the standing waves of the plasmic field. And as we pass through these waves or reach back into that level of consciousness, as our galaxy expands, that's what we're doing. We're carrying our history with us through these standing waves, and we can reach back in the linear field or in the quantum field and touch this information that's allowed us to survive the past. But to proceed onward to create the new world reality as it exists, as I see it coming into form, it requires the shift of consciousness out of survival into co-creative, the co-creative field with the mind of God to manifest all things positive in a positive nature. We've had enough of domination. We've all learned its lessons. It's time to shift our consciousness and reach upward and to clear any thought because thoughts have power, and thoughts impress in the plasmic field. So it's necessary to clear any thought or any manifestation of creation in our minds, of manifesting any form, even thought form. It's necessary to clear and let go of the past influences that create in the moment of now, in the 0 point, our new reality for us. That's it's so fascinating to study the physics and understand how all of this works, and the beginning of consciousness, and as it's evolved up to this point. But we have great opportunity, and we will take advantage of it by in the moment of now making right choice. And right choice is not relating to the domination fields whatsoever. It's expanding outward and seeing that we're all one, and incorporating all information and knowledge into ourselves that we rely on for our existence. Well, I'm going to step back again now. We've got 10 minutes late.
Sure. Checking my mute. There we go. Going back to what Vanessa said about, those moments when you're vacuuming, or it happens, like I said, while I was driving, and we're focusing on our driving, and then we start daydreaming, and then you're definitely noticing the road, and sometimes, well, every time I get in a car, because there are animals that come out on the road that are that's their home. So sometimes I'll be cautious about a bear or a deer or a moose or raccoon or porcupine or birds or so on. What I'll do is get in my car, and I'll just consciously bless my journey and bless the animals on the road, and like I can tune in and go, okay, is there going to be anything there? And just be open, just be conscious of them, like you're going to almost expect to see something. And very often I will see like a deer or a moose or a bear, and then when I get where the feeling kind of touches my chest, and it's like, oh, look ahead, there's something close, then I to ask it to stand back and beware, and inevitably I'll see something. I'll see a moose in a great big swamp area eating lily pads or whatever. Oops, one sec. There's a vehicle that's very loud going by. Sorry about that. So there's those times when you're open, you're relaxed, and you tend to be more sensitive. And it is a meditation. I mean, there's that saying, I don't know what its origin is, but carry, chop wood, carry water, or in the modern day, it's, vacuum the floor and that sort of thing. So it is actually very similar to that meditative state, driving or doing what we think are mundane chores, or going for a walk. And that's partly why walks are so precious and connecting. So here's something that, go ahead, comment.
Yes, Teresa, you just explained why I was born on a cattle ranch and spent all my earlier years mostly alone, and in the fields or on the range, and I would get into that state you're talking about, and things would run through my mind even as my low self was observing and doing the physical thing that needed to be done. My high self was opening up the channels and accessing me And that's why I had an open mind and could solve almost any problem instantaneously. Was all I had to do was step back and need to know, and the information would come. I laugh
Mhm.
about this because I'm so right-brained that in college, where I had to take a mathematics course, a high math course to graduate. I got a D in that class because I could not comprehend the left brain activity, the answers that I needed to give the professors. So I learned that I could open up to the problem and write down the answer and without the solution. And they couldn't fail me because I did get the answer, but I could to this day I can't do a physics problem of any kind. It's just knowing how things work.
Mhm. I know. So here's a challenge that I came across the other day, and it was a clearing that someone phoned me up and said that they're in an apartment building and someone moved in the apartment below them, and there were new tenants, possibly. Well, there was a male and two young female girls, and they just love to scream. The girls just love the thrill of the sound of the screaming, and and it was the same apartment, as it turned out, that a past drug addict lived in. And so my friend called me and asked, like, are there some portals open from the past drug addict? And I picked up that there were three, and so I cleared those. And the way that I cleared them was I I could see they were on the north side of the building. I was able to detect it with my pendulum, what side of the building it was. And then uh, she actually sent me a photograph of the building, and she confirmed that, yes, indeed, it was the north side. And so what I did was I went in and visualized they were closed, and I filled it up with energy from the sun and source energy, and that I asked that source continuously fill those holes. And then um, shortly after that, the next day, it was as though, and she said the screaming stopped that night, things were good. And then, uh, and then there were other portals open in a different way. And so what I did was I was reminded about the frequencies available in a coil, a hoop of copper, twisted wire, called the Lahovsky coil, and people have used it to assist with uh, changing weather and things like that. And so I did that, used the Lahovsky coil, and basically visualized going over top of this man who was also screaming and yelling and so on again. And it's calmed right down. But the intention that I had with the coil was that it would confuse the ability of this man uh, opening portals that he wasn't even aware of. He basically was, when he was yelling and screaming and that, it was shattering any available portal openings that were there and would cause them to open. So I intended and asked or basically commanded the Lahovsky coil to confuse all frequencies, neutralize any frequencies that or near any available in the region of that person. And since then, there have been no portals open, and the screaming has stopped, and everything has changed in that area. So what I've found is that when a problem comes forth, the whatever creative means that you have experience with, you can use them. I mean, sometimes when you have a nail, you don't always have a hammer, but you might have a rock handy, or you might have a block of steel handy, and ultimately when the nail is tapped into place and it holds the board down, I mean it works, and it's the right answer. It doesn't have to be somebody else's paradigm. So this is mostly to encourage anyone listening that the use of whatever tool you have, the creativity that you have, providing it is done with intention of the best and highest good, that is the right tool that that you can use.
That's exactly right on. In the future shows, we will specifically learn how to focus our desired will with a specific intent, and how to manifest things into form. And I'll explain to you the physics of all of that, of what's actually happening beneath the dynamics of our fields. Catherine, can you take us out on a note of love?
I would be happy to. And before I do, remember to donate to People for People Radio, everybody. Thank you. Everything we've done today, the meditations and such, know and trust within yourself your heart beats for you. For you alone, it beats in love. And it's up to you and your soul to spread that love out far and wide, in front of you, beside you, behind you. Walk in love, be in love, know that it is true. Healing is being done by your heart and your love for me and you. Thank you everyone for being who and what you are. Know that you have capabilities that are incredible. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of my realm here and now. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And we'll see you all next week with more information. And we don't just talk about the things we can do, we talk about the energetics of what is happening, because that's the source consciousness that you need to understand in order to do conscious manifestation. But we'll discuss all this another time. See you next week, and we love you. Bye now. Yes, are we off the air?
I don't think we're quite off the air yet.
Vanessa, you can end the call. So let's all hit our red telephone button.
Okay.